Welcome back to our three-part series on the 13 mistakes that first-time homebuyers make and how to avoid them. We're getting ready to start part 2 right now, but if you missed the first one, you can check it out below. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up and make sure to smash that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos. Mistake number 6. Don't be rushed and don't be in desperation mode. Of course, there is a difference between being rushed and dragging your feet. For example, as a first-time homebuyer, it's very easy to fall in love or choose the house for all the wrong reasons when you're rushing into things. You might find that you want to sell for the very first home that comes along, and this can be a huge mistake, especially with all the excitement going along. This is an exciting process. This is a big adventure for you, and it's very easy to get caught up on some of the factors that you might find in the home. Some of the newness factors. It might have the new cabinets. It might have new countertops with a remodeled bathroom. But it's very important not to forget the reasons why, the big why, you wanted to look for a home in the first place. And looking back on your goal list, once again, to find out how this home aligns to your needs and wants. Many times, it's a good idea to get out there and see several different homes and several different styles to really find out, as a first-time home buyer, what fits your needs the most. The same thing can hold true if you're dragging your feet, however. If you find one that seems to meet all your needs and also seems to match a lot of the things you wanted on your list that you put together, this one might very well be the home for you. Working with your realtor will help you determine whether or not it's a good idea to put an offer in now, or if you have time to think about it. Depending on the marketplace that we're in, this can be very critical, because if you like the home and it meets all your needs, chances are there's another buyer lurking on the outside that is also very interested in that home. So by waiting too long, you run the risk of losing out on the very one that you like and that seems to meet your needs. Another important aspect of being rushed, however, means that sometimes you get in such a desperation mode that you really just want to put everything into one basket, and it's very easy to overpay for that house you want because you just absolutely don't want to lose out on it. And in some cases, especially in a seller's market, there are many buyers competing for that same house. And it's important to make sure that you're not going over the top and way overpaying for something that you really shouldn't have and potentially are going to regret later. When we're rushed, think about it like this. When you're in a hurry to get to an appointment, what are the chances you might forget your keys on the way out to your car, forget your lunch on the way out to the car, or if you're like me, you forget your wallet on the way out to the car, maybe your cell phone? Well, that never happens, right? Different things can happen. When we're in a rush, we don't think very clearly. We need to slow things down just enough to gather our thoughts and go back to making sure that everything meets what you really need first and how all the rest falls in line. You don't want to make a decision of buying because you want it for the sake of wanting. For example, it suddenly has this one feature about the house that you weren't expecting and you're willing to go all in. But can you live without these important items you had on your list? And if you can live without them now, though, what about the long term? You got to remember that there are no refunds in this one. There's no return policy. You can't just take it back to the store if you find out later that you made a mistake. It doesn't work that way. You're making a long-term commitment for this one, and you need to make sure that, again, it meets your needs, not just in the short term, but in the long term, depending on what your goals are. You know, it's easy to go into that house and see it's got these wonderful, awesome-looking stainless steel appliances. And oh my word, you gotta have them, right? You just gotta have them. But the house is on a corner lot. There is no yard. Do you have kids? Are you thinking about having kids? Did you have any plans, maybe throwing the ball in the backyard? Or maybe perhaps you plan on entertaining and having backyard barbecues throughout the summertime. How cool is that? Well, if you make the decision to go with the house because it's got the stainless steel appliances, you might be missing out on that yard. So you got to make sure that you're not just basing it based on some things you really like that you see now. And you got this ADD thing going on where it seems like there's all these different things that are calling your attention. Remember, the home buying process is not an event. It's a process and a series of steps along the way. The other thing to remember here is as you're going through the process and all of this excitement, you might find one that seems to meet all your needs and has a lot of the items on your want list. But don't fall in love with it just yet, because the key thing to remember is there's other buyers out there, once again, that are looking. And you may very well end up in that bidding war, and somebody's got to lose, somebody's going to win. And if you lose out, don't fret. Usually I find many times over the years where there's usually a better opportunity waiting around the corner for you. However, that's not to say that just because you choose to pass up one, that there will always be a better opportunity around the corner. So you got to use your judgment wisely in making the decisions here and not dragging your feet so as to miss out on the ideal opportunities, and at the same time not rushing into it so fast that you skip out on some of the things that were once again important to you in the very beginning. So just look back to don't being rushed. Again, settling for the first thing that comes along, or settling just because you really got to have a home, is not good reasons to buy a house. It's important to make sure that you've examined this thing and thought things through carefully, because you're going to be there for a while. And mistake number 7. Looking for the unicorn. This is one of my favorite lines because it happens so often that I can't even count anymore. But the thing of it is, many times you want that 3-bedroom house, 2 baths, big garage with a big beautiful backyard, but you want it for the price of a foreclosure house and you want it move-in ready. Those are not realities. Those are just not going to happen. Just like expecting that you're going to get a waterfront home with this great spectacular view for the price of one that's in a big crowded subdivision. It's just not reality, and it's not realistic. Again, working with your realtor will help you determine what is and isn't realistic as you look to control your expectations. You know, speaking of foreclosures, this is an area where many people want to become the next home flipper star in their area from watching HGTV. The reality is, many of these people that are doing this for a living have done their research and have been working at this for a very long while. But expecting that you're going to find this beautiful flip home with a potential upside of $50,000 to $100,000 in net profit is not going to happen for you. If you're looking for this in our area, for an example, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, big backyard, big house, and you want it for under $50,000, you're going to be looking for a long, long, long time. The reality is, if you're only going to spend up to that particular amount, you might find that you're looking at smaller homes, 1-car garage, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and maybe a smaller yard that needs a lot of work. But ones that have that kind of growth rate, you're going to pay a lot more. For example, in my area, we had one that was priced around $60,000 in one of the most popular areas of town. That property had mold all over. It needed a ton of work. It needed to be completely gutted out. But it was in an area that houses sell for between $200,000 and $300,000. With the amount of aggressive bidders out there, that property sold for close to $140,000. Looking for things like that and expecting that they're going to go for prices that cheap are just not realistic. Understanding how the marketplace works and what you realistically can get for your budget or for a certain price point is very, very important. Another area where we find the trail of the unicorns is you wanting to buy a house. The houses are starting at $800 a month. However, you can only afford to spend $600 a month. It's important to realize that the housing market may not be for you. And that's okay. Now's the time to know before you get too far down the road and really get all serious about a home that you just can't have, because it's not affordable for you. So if you're qualified for a home for $800 or up, and that's where they're starting at, good. But if you're finding out that you really don't qualify for more than $600 and the homes are starting at $800, you're not going to find a house. Not that it's move-in ready or anything like that. There's going to be a lot of work, and many homes don't even qualify for financing at that point. Mistake number 8, and that is finding your values online. Many home buyers, especially first-time home buyers, rely on things like Zillow and the Zillow estimates. However, this is a huge trap and a mistake that many buyers make. Why? Because the Zestimates are very far from accurate. In fact, Zillow even admits that they are wrong much of the time. And several people have tried to sue Zillow in the past based on these Zestimates. Zillow's very own CEO even sold his property for 40% less than Zestimate values. So it's important to understand that what you see online isn't always going to reflect the really true market values that are out there. And this is why you want to work really close with your realtor to determine the true values of the property, because that online estimate may prove to be higher than the true market value or lower than the true market value. When we go and do showings or open houses, we don't bump into those people running those websites. We don't see Zillow affiliates there going through the open houses or the showings out there. They're not looking at the inside of those properties to determine what kind of conditions they're in, what kind of improvements they have. They're just combining local sales information. Those properties don't even have to be very accurately matched. They could be completely different styles, and they could be completely different markets depending on the locations in which they're established in. For example, you might have one that's on the water. Waterfront properties are typically going to have higher values than that one of a few blocks over. However, when you're looking online at the tax records, you may very well see something called the fair market value. There is a difference, however, between what you're seeing on the tax records and what is the true fair market value. It's very confusing to consumers when they see that. What you need to understand is those fair market values that are put there for a tax purpose only in determining what your property should be based off of when they come to figuring your taxes and your formula that they use. However, working again with your realtor to determine the true market value is going to determine whether or not that property is overvalued or undervalued in the marketing conditions that we're in right now and in the market that we're dealing with. In some cases, when you're looking at the property tax fair market value, municipalities or counties for that matter, they don't necessarily have a strict guideline they have to go to. They may not have any rules that dictate when they have to reassess a certain property. Some areas, even in my area, I've seen it where properties haven't been reassessed for values in the past 6 or 8 years. And the market has definitely changed in that same amount of time. So while you're looking at those tax records, you might see it where the fair market value is 40 or even 60 grand below that of what the property is being sold for. So don't rely on those property taxes to give you an idea on what the true market value is. They really need to be compared to what other properties in the same neighborhood or the same locations are selling for, and allow the realtor to do their job in researching that for you, so that way you can make an informed decision. Well, that's the end of video number 2 of our 3-part series. I hope it wasn't too much information for you to digest at one time. However, we're going to be starting our video number 3 here shortly. If you're looking to make a move in the Green Bay or Fox Cities area, you're looking to sell or buy, I'm your guy. Once again, Brett Bolzenthal with eXp Realty and SoldByBrett.com.